We need to stop stressing about the things we can't control. Because you can't control the past or the future, and most definitely not other people's opinions. So why worry about it so much? I used to be an absolute hoarder, clinging on to every little thing. And this applied to friends too, because I used to get super attached. But once I finally learned detachment, life just became so much easier. Because once you stop clinging on to the things you can't change or control, you will finally be able to use that clarity for things that you can actually change and control. And weight will fall off your shoulders. First of all, what you need to understand is that if you get attached to something, that just means you can also detach from it. This is because, surprise, surprise, we have these things called emotions, and obviously, you can't decide whether you're going to be feeling happy or sad in the next moment. But what you can decide is whether you act on these feelings or rather just experience them. And I know this sounds a little crazy, but let me explain. So, you are only responsible for your own reactions to things because that's the only thing you actually have control over. You cannot control others' reactions or opinions on things. And I know it's incredibly hard to reach the mental state where you can view things objectively and stop taking things personally and stop clinging onto the desire to control every aspect of your life. But it is so freeing because once you get there, all of those questions that go like, "Oh my god, what am I going to do without them? Oh my god, what about that mistake 2 years ago? Oh my god, who am I going to be if they leave?" are going to finally disappear completely. Before we get into it, I wanted to clear up some misconceptions. A lot of people seem to think that you cannot love without attachment, which is crazy because it's the exact opposite. Love without attachment is the purest form of love because you're not expecting anything in return from the relationship, and you understand that if the connection doesn't feel right on either sides, either one of you can decide to leave. This is what we call unconditional love. And you still care, you still want to connect, you're still there, but you don't let your emotions, energy, and motivation rely on them completely. I've been there, and it is not pretty. Detachment basically just means that you still want to connect, you still devote your time and energy to them, but you don't let your inner peace depend on them entirely. Another common misconception is that detachment is entirely unhealthy, which, yes, it can be. That's what we call emotional blunting in psychology. This basically acts as a defense mechanism, causing individuals to suppress feelings, isolate themselves, and withdraw themselves from situations, causing them to build up walls against others. The main difference here is that healthy detachment is an active skill that we practice, and unhealthy detachment is a trauma response. One of the first things I had to learn when it came to detachment was that you should not let things define who you are. I used to think for so long that you were as good as your achievements. And in the process of trying to reach these wins, I completely lost myself. And what I realized was that usually the people I lost to were also the people who were not there for the wins or the outcomes. They just loved what they were doing, and they didn't let one failed attempt define who they were. And these were also the same people who trained in no name brands and who didn't have the most expensive phones because they understood that these materialistic things did not define who they were. And it's the same with relationships because you understand that if all of these things would disappear, you would still be the same person. Speaking of relationships, please do not try to control or change others or force relationships that are clearly not going to work out. I'm not saying you should not try to lead people to better decisions. I'm just saying that if they don't take your suggestions, you should not get riled up. It's their life, not yours. We need to try and reach a mindset where we don't care anymore if somebody is being cold or distant or if they're not giving us enough attention. We are not entitled to their attention and love. So we should be appreciative of the time spent together while setting strict boundaries, such as not being someone's emotional trash bag, which I know quite a few of us have fallen victims to. But in all seriousness, boundaries are incredibly important, and you should learn how to say no and communicate your needs and limits very clearly to others. It's also very important that you have to set boundaries and standards, not just for the others around you, but yourself as well. This can look like having non negotiables or setting a screen limit, maybe even just protecting your own values and beliefs. To do this, first, you will have to pinpoint exactly what truly matters to you and find out what your core values are. For example, one of my core values is authenticity, but this can look very different for everybody. But what I would recommend is that first you pick out around 5 core values and structure everything around those 5. Next thing you will have to do is to establish clear categories in your life where you will want to implement these standards and boundaries. So this can mean social, time based, or even digital. The next thing is you have to learn how to say no. And for my people pleaser friends, yes, this is incredibly hard, but you will have to learn it if you want to detach. And also, a quick reminder, no is a sentence in its own. Like, that's it. You do not need a lengthy explanation, not to others, and definitely not yourself, because that's where compromising your values comes in. So, no means no, okay? And after this, you can finally build self accountability, which basically means keeping your promises to yourself and treating your values and boundaries and standards as very strict rules, not letting yourself or others cross it. But you might come against the obstacle of slip ups, obviously, because sometimes you will set boundaries and then you will cross them or others will cross them, and this happens. Do not be too assertive. Do not try to overcompensate for it. Just try to reassess your strategy if you stepped over your own boundary, or if somebody else did it, try to communicate clearly and resolve the situation. And there you have it. That's how you set boundaries. And it's not easy, it's not comfortable, but it's so crucial when it comes to becoming detached. After your boundaries are finally set in place, you will have to let yourself be authentic. And I want you to know that you do not have to live up to anybody's expectations other than your own. Because at the end of the day, you are the only person who is truly going to be there for you. So allow yourself to be who you actually are and embrace that. And you do not have to change for anybody else because we're all on completely different paths with entirely different goals. And I'm pretty sure that a good, confident, successful person would not take criticism from somebody who is absolutely lazy. So, why are you taking criticism from people who are on completely different levels with different paths and entirely, completely different goals? You have to learn who you are and what your goals are. And one of the best ways to do this is journaling and answering shadow questions. And I've talked about this before, and I will keep talking about it because it genuinely does wonders when you're trying to figure out who you were and what patterns you want to break, who you are and what you want to keep from that, and who you want to be and what your goals are. And in the process of this, you will finally be so focused on your goals that others will not even matter, and you will not want that validation from anybody anymore because you will finally become your own safe place and you will finally become someone who does not need validation from others so you can be actually detached. How can you practice detachment daily? Remind yourself that this is the only life you're living because you can't live in the past or the future. So the only thing that truly matters is the present. Often we are so attached to a past version of ourselves, to a memory of a person who doesn't even exist anymore, limiting our own space to grow and causing ourselves so much anxiety while subconsciously knowing that we are not that person anymore. And this is usually because of some unhealed wound we haven't even identified yet. So I want you to remind yourself just how proud that past self would be of the person who you have become. Because, sure, your past mistakes will always exist, but you cannot change them anymore. So start taking control of the present and start thinking about the things you can do now because it won't help you if you're fixating on the past or stressing about the future. So take control of your present and make the best of it. So, this is the end of this video. I hope this was a basic guide of detachment and I hope you learned something today. One thing I would like to add is that there's no quick route to healthy detachment, and you will always have to keep practicing it. I'm still practicing it to this day, and I still have not got to the end of it. And sometimes the steps aren't clear, but you just really have to keep working on it and keep practicing. I really hope you learned something today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!